Okay, so for today's deep dive, I want you to picture a specific place. A large, weathered house at 4315 Charlotte Street in Kansas City, Missouri.
For a long time, it was just a house, you know?
Right.
The man who lived there, Robert Berdella, he was known around the neighborhood.
Right, but known for being, what, an eccentric, basically.
Exactly. The guy who owned an antique and curiosities shop. A bit odd, a little intense, but harmless. That was the general consensus. Harmless.
And that's the word, isn't it? Harmless. Because that whole facade is what makes this case so chilling and important to unpack.
It is, because behind that door on Charlotte Street, something truly dark was happening, and it was all meticulously planned.
And it all came crashing down in April of 1988 when one young man managed to escape. A terrified escape that kicked off really one of the most shocking criminal investigations in Missouri history.
So our goal today, I think, is to move past the sensationalism. We want to responsibly understand the psychology here, the meticulous documentation, the social context, and how an ordinary life can hide such an extraordinary, deliberate darkness.
Yeah, we want you to see how this specific mix of secrecy, isolation, and manipulation can go completely undetected for years, especially when it's all wrapped up in this image of like a helpful but quirky guy in the community.
So let's start at the beginning, the making of the man himself.
Robert Berdella. He was born January 31st, 1949 in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And from what the sources say, he was a quiet kid, very bookish, very smart.
But he struggled to connect. He just felt like an outsider pretty much from the get-go. His interests, art, cooking, reading about really obscure topics, didn't quite line up with his peers.
And his home life didn't help. I mean, it seems like that feeling of being an outsider was really amplified at home.
Oh, absolutely. The household was very strict. His father, in particular, had these really traditional expectations of masculinity.
Which would have clashed directly with Robert's interests.
A huge clash. And that tension, it didn't really lead to, typical teenage rebellion. He didn't act out in a way people would notice.
So what happened?
He retreated. He went inward. But it wasn't a passive thing. He started actively cultivating his own private world, full of his own obsessions, his own rules.
So on the surface, he's calm. But underneath, all these resentments are just building up, this feeling of being completely misunderstood.
Yes, and that's the foundation that he took with him when he moved to Kansas City in the late 1960s.
He came to attend the Kansas City Art Institute, right?
He did, and he was apparently very bright, very curious. But even then, in his art, this fascination with control and power started to show. It was a theme.
And he didn't even finish his degree there. He left because of some disciplinary problems.
Right. But he stayed in Kansas City. He didn't go back home. And that's when he rented the big house on Charlotte Street.
And that move is so significant. He's detached from his family. He's detached from any kind of formal institution. He's got the perfect space to let that private world just evolve, unchecked.
Completely unchecked. And that's where his public face, his facade, really starts to take shape.
Let's talk about that. Berdella's Bazaar. It was his shop in the Westport Flea Market.
It was basically a physical version of his own mind. Rare books, strange artifacts, unusual collectibles from all over.
And this shop was his stage.
It was his stage, absolutely. He built this reputation as this incredibly knowledgeable, if a bit intense guy. He loved being the authority, the person with the answer to the obscure question.
That intellectual superiority it was feeding something in him.
It was. It gave him a sense of power that he clearly wasn't getting anywhere else.
And that need for power, it started to bleed into how he interacted with people, specifically vulnerable people.
Yes. He became known as this guy who would help out. He'd offer odd jobs or a place to stay for the night to young men who were, on the margins, runaways, transients.
On the surface, it looks like he's being generous, charitable even.
But it was never about charity. It was purely transactional.
Because he was looking for people who depended on him.
Exactly. People who had nowhere else to turn. People who, critically, wouldn't be immediately missed if they disappeared. That dynamic of caretaker and dependent gave him this quiet, absolute sense of control.
And his need for control wasn't just with people. It was with everything. The sources really stress his habit of documenting.
Oh, the documentation it's maybe the most crucial part of this whole psychological puzzle. He documented everything. Inventory for his shop, lists of books he read, receipts.
Well, then it became notes about people.
It did. And for him, I think this was a way to manage the world. If he could log it, categorize it, write it down, it became a variable he could control.
It's a way of compartmentalizing. A person stops being a person and become...
Inventory item, a piece of data. And once you see someone that way, it becomes much easier to justify anything.
And yet, despite all these warning signs, the temper, holding grudges, the transactional kindness, he kept up the act.
He did. He was just the weird, smart guy who owned the curiosity shop, and that persona worked perfectly. It made him basically invisible.
Which leads us right into the escalation. Between 1984 and 1987, several young men, they just disappeared in Kansas City.
And this is where it gets really dark.
So how did that go unnoticed for years?
It really points to some major blind spots in society, Berdella was calculated. He picked people whose disappearance wouldn't set off immediate alarms.
People who are already disconnected.
Exactly. If you're transient or struggling with addiction or you're alienated from your family, your absence just isn't treated with the same urgency.
Their vulnerability was his entire strategy. He offered them help because he knew they had no other options.
Yeah.
He was offering a safe place.
A safe place that was anything but. And because these disappearances were happening to men on the margins, they were often treated as separate individual tragedies. No one was connecting the dots.
He's literally operating in the cracks of the system.
He was. He knew that a young man who just stopped calling home or left town wouldn't necessarily trigger a massive search. He capitalized on that.
And all the while, he's living this completely dual life. He's at his flea market booth talking to customers, going to local events.
A totally normal life, a normal social calendar. But inside that house on Charlotte Street, he's the architect of this secret world of just absolute control and abuse.
The level of compartmentalization that Wright requires it's hard to even wrap your head around.
It's profound. Two fully formed, completely separate realities existing at the same time. And the documentation, I think, is what allowed him to maintain it. It let him process his victims as data, then go back to being the quirky shop owner without any psychological break.
Until that break finally happened. April 1988.
That's when the control finally cracked. A young man named Christopher Bryson managed to escape.
A desperate, terrified escape.
Yeah.
He got out, he found help, and that brought the police right to Berdella's front door.
And when they served that search warrant, what they found, it wasn't just physical evidence, it was psychological.
Right. They found the documents.
Years of notes, meticulous logs, photographs, detailed records of everything he had done, all in his own handwriting.
It was a roadmap. He literally created a chilling roadmap for the investigators.
This wasn't some chaotic, impulsive thing. The documents prove this was a long-term, calculated, and organized project for him.
He documented everything, from the dates people were taken to the details of the abuse. It's like he was treating human beings as entries in some kind of sick research journal.
Which really brings up the question, why? Why would you create that kind of evidence against yourself?
He must have felt completely untouchable.
I think so. In his mind, he wasn't operating under our moral or legal rules. He had his own system. And the documents, they validated that system. They were proof of his power, his control. They were his trophies.
And his reaction when he was arrested, that says so much.
It does. He was reportedly very calm, almost frustrated that people were, in his words, misinterpreting him.
No remorse, just irritation that his private world had been exposed.
It's a classic sign of a massive superiority complex combined with just a total lack of empathy. He genuinely believed he was smarter than everyone, the police, his victims, everyone. He thought he could rationalize anything.
But he couldn't rationalize a mountain of evidence in his own handwriting.
No. The very system he created to document his control ended up documenting his downfall. Faced with all of that, he pled guilty.
Which got him life without parole, but it also meant he avoided a public trial.
He tried to control the narrative right to the very end.
So he dies in prison in 1992. The house is eventually demolished. But the case, it leaves behind some really hard lessons for Kansas City and I think for criminology in general.
Some very uncomfortable but very necessary truths.
So what are they? What do we take away from this that makes it so important to study?
Well, I think the case basically exposed three huge failures in how we protect people. First, it showed just how easily vulnerable communities, the transient, the isolated, can be completely overlooked. They become prime targets.
And the second lesson is about perception, right? The idea that people capable of incredible harm can just blend in.
Yes, they can hide behind a mask of harmless eccentricity. Berdella used his oddness as a kind of camouflage.
And the third thing is, it has to go back to the documentation, the secrecy.
It does. His intense planning and compartmentalization, that's what allowed this to go on for so long. It wasn't messy, it was methodical. Criminologists still study his patterns to understand how these control-motivated offenders think, to recognize that this is deliberate, it's not random.
So the real danger wasn't just that he was an unusual guy. The danger was that intense, unchecked need for absolute control, combined with a system that let him justify it all to himself.
The story of Robert Berdella is a really chilling study of hidden lives and all the warning signs we overlook. It forces you to look at the value system he built, a world where data and power mattered more than human life.
It's terrifying.
And if you connect it to the bigger picture, the lasting lesson is about the tire. The incredible power someone can gain just by offering help to people who have no other choice, nowhere else to go.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought.
It does. What does it mean for society when the only person offering help is also the person who is seeking absolute control?
That's a challenging and very necessary question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into how documentation, vulnerability, and control can create something so horrific. We encourage you to think about the role of community and just paying attention in making sure secrets like this don't have the chance to become tragedies. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.